What is your money personality type or your money history? And how are you and your partner creating a financial future that you want with the decisions you're making today? Today, we are speaking with Amanda Christensen, who is the creator of Utah Money Moms Power Pay Master Course and an accredited financial counselor and associate professor at Utah State University, who's going to teach us today about how we can make a plan for ourselves a year, 5 years, and a lifetime from now, starting step by step with understanding our own beliefs around money today, our partner's beliefs, and how we can use that to make financial plans for now and the future. So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? We'll listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Call Me CEO. And this is our first episode of April, which is kicking off Financial Literacy Month. I don't know if you're aware that it is, but it is. And being a CEO has a lot to do with how you handle your finances, how you feel about money. And today we have Amanda Christensen here who is going to help us do that. She is the author of Power Pay Money Master Course. She is also the creator of the Utah Money Moms, is an accredited financial counselor and an associate professor. She's been working on the USU extension team and has been doing that for 11 years. Today, we're going to be talking about how to understand your natural bias, your money history, and money personalities, how you can help that to empower yourself, your relationship with money, and also with your partner. So thank you so much, Amanda, for being here today. I can't wait to dive into this topic.
You're welcome, Camille. Thanks for having me. This is a fun one, isn't it?
There is so much to unpack. I feel like we could probably split this up into 5 different episodes. So we may be calling you back very, very soon.
That'd be fine. That'd be great.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your family first, since we are moms here. And I want to hear about your journey and coming into the financial world and how it has helped fuel your passion and your life.
Sure. Well, I was sitting in Alina Johnson's family finance class at Utah State, and I just felt like I'd come home. Like the topic just hit a string, it hit a chord with me. I think growing up, I knew money was a point of conflict for my parents. So when Alina announced she was doing research about how couples in happy marriages were managing their money, I made a beeline after class right down to her. And I said, I'm in. I want to know about that. I want to be your research assistant. And that led to a graduate degree and now a career teaching people about money and how we can be positive and empower ourselves rather than just talk all the time about all the stuff that is wrong or that's hard with money.
I think that you are speaking to me on such a wonderful level about really tapping into the purpose of what the reason why you went into finance, and also the powerful empowerment just of our mind and the way that we associate ourselves and our ability to earn money and what that means. And it sounds like your research in that is perfect for everyone listening to really understand where they're coming from with limiting beliefs they may have about creating their own business or in establishing a healthy financial home, whether that is, staying from home and working or being a stay-at-home mom or creating a business outside of your home.
Right. It applies on all levels, whether you're CEO of your own personal finances or that extends to a business. It's the same positive mindset that I think helps propel us forward rather than if I only had this, then I'd be happy. If I only had more money, we hear that a lot. More money would solve my problems. More money doesn't solve the problem if the problem related to the personality or the behavior is still there. So, that's why I love this topic so much.
Yeah. Take us through those steps. I know you have some questions prepared for us to dive into to think about how we can really understand what our own association with money might be and how that could be creating a roadblock for us or not.
Okay. So here's a question for everyone. If you could visualize money as a man or a woman, as a person, give money, bring money to life, Would you draw? Would it be? Would you visualize? Are you thinking of a man or a woman? This is a fun question to ask in class because the answer is often about split 60-40 most commonly. And you'd think, but usually it's 60% are envisioning a man and 40% say, I think I would envision a woman. Another question we ask, if you saw money walking down the street, what would you do? Would you just smile and say hi and keep walking? Would you go over and talk and interact? Or would you make a point to avoid and keep on going? And I don't know if you've ever been asked a question like that before. It might sound a bit silly off front, but I think it's just one of those questions that to start easing into this conversation about why, common sense with regards to money. Often really smart people make poor money decisions. And sometimes that stems back to this idea that we've talked about our money, our personal bias and some things, money history. So those are some fun questions to get you thinking kind of off the bat about what it might be. How do I associate money as a man or a woman? And if it was walking down the street, would I interact with it, avoid it, or just sort of smile from a distance and wave?
Or would you chase after it and say, hey, let's talk?
Yeah. Hey, what can I do? Yeah, exactly. Right. And everything in between. So we do have some natural bias. And we do have some things that, especially as women, we deal with 4 biases, and we deal with these every day. And as women, we're programmed, bless our hearts, we're programmed a little bit to have to overcome some of these biases to be successful with money and let ourselves be successful. So these are, I'll just briefly tell you, these biases are present versus future. Now, men and women, these biases affect all men and women, but women in particular, since our brains are always like this web of thoughts that are consistently, visualize a web and this thought's connected to this one over here and that one over there. And so that's why as women, these sometimes hit us a little harder. The present versus future bias. We prefer the present. We think about our most immediate needs and immediate consequences to things. So if we're in debt, it's hard to think about saving for the future, or harder because it's not the here and now, for example. Pleasure versus pain is another bias. Eating the donut right now that you see in front of you, rather than avoiding it because you'd like to eat healthier or lose weight or whatever your health goals are. So spending now rather than sacrificing for the future is often a pleasure versus pain money bias that we have. Confirmation bias involves looking for evidence to prove what you believe, because you're going to confirm your bias, right? So what you believe and what you want to believe. So we look for things that reinforce or confirm our money personalities. We maybe ignore or don't listen to things that don't support our money personalities. And then the final is the status quo bias. So if you see yourself as someone who has money, for example, or money is not currently a struggle, but then you lose a job or you're furloughed or something, something takes a turn in your life. When your situation changes, you can have no money, all of a sudden needing to really pivot and sabotage yourself because you continue to live in that status quo. Or you could identify as poor because of your money history and how you grew up, and identify as sort of not being very good with money, even though you have a pretty decent job and are good, a solid foundation moving forward and have the ability to sort of progress financially. You can sabotage your financial process because of that, your progress, because of that status quo bias. So just some brief nuggets to sort of help us unpack this, but wow, there's so much going on. We've got to give ourselves a little bit of slack to learn a little bit more about what goes into our money personality.
My goodness. I'm listening to that and thinking there is so much there that what comes to me over and over again is that so much of what we create in our mind is what we create as our reality. Where if we have certain biases towards money or making money, or if we see ourselves as good or bad with money, that can affect the outcome of what actually turns out happening, not dependent necessarily on the type of job you have or what your annual income might be.
Right. Absolutely. You can be happy or unhappy on any income. Oh, and the research shows that. The research confirms that over and over and over, over and over and over and over. We also make money assumptions. We assume. One question I like to ask folks: why would you be upset? We assume more money solves the problem, right? But why do you think you'd be upset to inherit $1 million? And people look at me a little bit like, well, why would anyone be upset, Amanda, to inherit $1 million? And then when you let people really think about that, and responses include, well, they don't want maybe the responsibility that comes with having to now be, air quotes, good with money, right? Or expectations of family members that are going to come into play now that I've inherited that money, or the pressure to be good, the taxes, and the list goes on. And then you start to realize, oh, well, okay, well, we all have these biases, these money assumptions. We often assume more money solves the problem, when in reality, maybe our money history is something we want to dive into a little bit more to figure out what sort of stem is at the underlying issue with
Yeah.
money.
So, what would you suggest if someone's trying to get really digging deep into their money history and understand perhaps what their biases might be? What would your suggestions be for understanding that themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on utahmoneymoms.com, on the worksheets and resources section, I've got a worksheet it's titled How to Start the Money Conversation. It's a free printable that gives you some questions to ask yourself about what your money personality, or I'm sorry, about your money history. But in brief, some of those questions include: what are your first money memories? What was your first big purchase with your own money? And how did your family handle money? What were vacations like? What were holidays like? Did you receive an allowance or not? These money history questions, you can unpack these. And I mean, this is a fun money date. If you've not answered or aren't aware of how you would answer these questions yourself, or what your spouse's answers would be. Is sort of a money conversation that isn't fine, a money conversation that isn't assigning blame or pointing fingers. Have the money history conversation, because that's a fun one.
And that's available for free on your website.
Yeah, it's just a free download in the resources section, How to Start the Money Conversation. And it has more of those money history questions.
Okay, I'm loving it. So we'll make sure to link to that in the notes below, because that sounds like an amazing way to start with your partner and for yourself personally to answer those questions and see where you're coming from. Because I feel like a lot of times we're under the understanding that talking about money is taboo. Talking about money isn't a good idea. Talking about money is something to be brushed under the rug. And that creates so much frustration for individuals, couples, and families. I think that there's so much power that comes from truly understanding where we're both coming from and how that can vary. Where I came from a family of educators who we didn't necessarily have loads of money, but it was consistent. And we had consistent vacations and we had consistent time together as a family. Where my husband, his dad owned his own car dealership, and it was a small business. And weekends and holidays were his busiest time of the year. Yep. And some years were feast and some years were famine. And so it has been really interesting to see how our perspectives of money and what we experienced as children were so different. But I feel like we could benefit so much from taking this course or doing those questions, because there is so much power that comes from that knowledge.
Yep. And you're just seeking, and you made a really good point that I would highlight it when you said, if you've not answered these questions for yourself, start there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's often, when you went out to eat at a restaurant, did you always have to order the least expensive thing, or were there a lot of, were there a lot of, hey, don't tell your mom or dad that we bought this. Okay. We're going to not talk about, or, I just think there's opportunities there to reflect for yourself and then seek to understand as you share. It's a great thought.
Mm. I agree with that, because it's just like before you go into any relationship, understanding yourself first is key to success of really coming together and understanding each other. Because
Yeah.
in whatever regard that is, if you don't trust and know yourself and where you're coming from, it's really hard to trust and know and really meld with another person. And
Mhm.
money, I mean, I don't know what the statistic is now, but I know that money is one of the top reasons for divorce, or at least inciting divorce in the beginning. Just, it's hard. Money can be really hard. What are some bits of advice that you would give to couples that are feeling a little bit lost and not knowing where to begin with that? Beyond taking this questionnaire, what are some things that you've seen that have been helpful in that regard?
Well, diving in and learning your money personalities has to be my top recommendation. But beyond that, which is what we're talking about today, beyond that, I think one something that you could implement today, right now, and do is a personal spending allowance for each partner. So, and I know this sounds like, well, a no-brainer or something, but so much of our discretionary money spending, so much of the butting heads comes from, why did you buy that? That wasn't in the budget. That was
Yes.
unexpected. That was spontaneous, which is one of our money personalities. So it's okay when it's not okay, I guess, when that is a breach of trust or when that comes across confrontational. But when I have a spending limit every month, then, and I can, the only rule is I cannot borrow into next month. Period. I don't have to ask permission to spend that money. I don't have to say what I'm buying it on. Nothing. It's mine. And financial autonomy is critical for couples. It's critical. It's actually also critical for children growing up to have some financial autonomy in the home before they leave home. But to stay on subject here, it's critical, financial autonomy. And the deeper roots in that involve financial abuse and financial infidelity, which we do not want. So in answer to your question, besides learning about your money personality, creating financial autonomy in your relationship by a simple his and hers, or each partner or spouse having a budget, a personal spending budget, I think does wonders. And you can do that tomorrow. You can set that up. Start with 1% to 2% of your take-home pay, because obviously this is money in excess of our entertainment budget, our eating out budget. This is fun money.
Oh, I love that advice. And for those that are listening, you know that Cube Money is a sponsor of my podcast, and they have the ability where you can actually set up your own cube for each of you that is your discretionary money, and you can use it how you want to. And I know that that comes into play, especially if you are budgeting and say you want to even buy a gift for your spouse, or you want to do different things like that, where you want to keep it kind of your own private thing, or self-care, or whatever that might be. I think that that's so helpful to have designated money that's just yours, and you don't feel like you have to report about it. Like, you can just use it how you want to.
Yeah, it's pretty critical for long-term. Otherwise, those disagreements and nitpicky things can happen every day, can't they?
Yeah,
I mean, every
easily.
day. So no wonder why money is cited as one of the top reasons for divorce.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah, I like that you talked about expectations, because I feel like a lot of times if we're feeling upset about something, it's typically because there's an expectation that was unmet. And if you're not laying out a plan together and there are expectations that aren't being met on either side, that's when conflict happens in all areas
Right.
of our lives. Our expectations, unmet expectations, too high of expectations, which really comes down to communication. Have you been thinking about trying to discover your why and maybe defining your purpose a little more clearly? Well, I created a free 5-day email sequence that helps you do just that. It helps you dive into who you are, what your special talents are, and even pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone with asking questions of people that are close to you. So go to callmeceopodcast.com to access that. And I have a little sneak peek of something up and coming about how to become a virtual assistant. So if that is something that you would think you might want to do in the future, stay tuned, get subscribed to the newsletter so you can hear about all the details, because we will have special discounts for those who are subscribed to our email list. You can go there and find more information at callmeceopodcast.com or camillewalker.co. So I'm so excited to talk about the money personalities, and there are 6 main money personalities. So we're going to dig into these so that as you're listening, you can take some notes and say, okay, I think this is me. And then maybe guess what you think your partner is, but that could be something they could listen to this as well and decide on their own. But let's dive into that and how we can decide, or how you can teach us how we can bring those personalities together to create a more cohesive whole.
Okay, so there are 6, and like you've heard of the 5 love languages, or these. Oftentimes when we talk money personalities, we think spender, saver, done. And there's a little more to it than that. There's just a little more to it. So these money personalities sort of connect the psychological, financial, behavioral, and economic related research to determine these 6 categories. So this is not just pulling out of thin air. This is legitimate research has been done to figure this out. And they're called money habitudes, which is a new word. I know we're talking money personalities, but a habitude is a combination of a habit and an attitude. So if you were to Google or try and find resources about this, you would want to be searching money habitudes here. And the 6 are security, money helping you feel safe, secure, and in control. Giving, where money helps you feel good by giving to others. Status, where money helps you present a positive image. Planning, money helps you achieve your goals. Spontaneous, money encourages you to enjoy the moment. And the final 6, carefree. So money isn't a priority necessarily. You just let life happen as it will. And those are the 6.
I'm making notes as I go through this. So these 6, is it possible to be a combination? Or is it? Okay, it is. Because I'm looking at these and going, okay, that's not me. That is me. That's not me. Maybe those 2 are too. So let's talk about how those work and how you kind of define which one you might be and how they work together.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are often a combination of the 6, and any major life event. So a birth, a death, a job loss, a new job, a graduation, a marriage, a divorce, any of these life events alter our money personalities. They can just adjust them for a bit so generally speaking, we'll have underlying things that are the same, but major life events. So this is something I would analyze every year. I would take the quiz to find out what my money personality is, to see how it has changed, which you can do. There's an online quiz to find out what your personal money personalities are in the moment, right? So there's no perfect combination. There's no recommended. I mean, I know I said security, giving, status, planning, spontaneous, carefree. Some of those sound a little better than others. Like, doesn't planning sound better than carefree or spontaneous? But to be truthful, no combination is correct, if you will. And too much of any one habitude, too much of a good thing, there will be challenges to that. You will see some challenges. Missing, if you did the quiz and you were completely missing one of the habitudes, that would be an area where I would say, oh, I would dive in there. There may be some challenges associated to completely, not having any of them in your arsenal. So at different times in our lives, you may draw on with your personal finances, you may be a little more carefree and spontaneous. In your business finances, you may find that your security status a little more, or, that there's just the combinations are endless. And generally speaking, they are definitely, we're not stuck with what we've got today. So when you know what your sort of your makeup is, what your how much of each of the 6 you are, then you're able to move forward and adjust for the personalities that are really heavy in your life, and maybe try to pull out some of the ones that aren't. So I'll give you an example. I have a pretty strong spontaneous money habitude. I do. I have a spontaneous habitude. So in an effort to sort of help that not create tension or issues with the spouse, and also not blow my financial long-term goals, which are also important to me, I compensate for that in my monthly spending with the personal allowance, the personal spending that I mentioned earlier, as well as we save about 1% of our income every month that we can do some spontaneous spending and giving with. And that allows me to operate with that personality without it just killing, like occasionally like blowing the budget or anything, which we don't want. So there's an example of a way you would find out or discern and then do something to help. It's okay to be spontaneous. My goodness, how boring would we be if we couldn't be spontaneous? Sometimes we just don't want that to blow the budget.
Yeah. So when people are going to take this test, where do they go to take this test first?
Okay. So you can really just Google money habitudes, or you can go moneyhabitudes.com, and the online you can do it right there online, and it costs anywhere from $10 to $15 each time you do it to do that. We also, though, have included this test is this quiz, if you will, is part of one of the resources in the Power Pay Money Master course.
Oh, nice.
So you can go to the Power Pay Money Master course if you want that sort of all-inclusive deal there. With, you're not just going to get your money personalities, you're going to get credit and debt and financial organization and budgeting and all of that too. But if you wanted the one, to quickly go to moneyhabitudes.com, you could do that and pay for it there, or get it in the course. Which we have, I think we have a code. I think Camille 10 is the code for your folks.
Which makes it only $30, which is an incredible steal. This course that you've built is all inclusive to help people understand how to create a financial roadmap and future, which I think really taps into that planning personality, which may or may not come naturally to you, those that are listening, and perhaps you do. I mean, who doesn't want to be spontaneous with their money every once in a while? And right. I think that by giving ourselves education and the planning piece, it opens up the freedom to have those spontaneous moments and to not feel guilty about it because you've planned for that spontaneity. And I think that that's the difference that comes into play when you have a plan. Right. Now, it's interesting to me that you say you take this once a year, that test once a year. Do you really feel like it's necessary to evaluate that often?
Yes, because every year there tends to be things that have just changed enough about our progress towards our financial goals that I'm interested to see if I respond to the questions any differently. Now, to be fair, I know the questions fairly well.
Probably by heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it would be interesting for folks and, without being too overbearing, oftentimes I give this as a gift to newlyweds. Mm-hmm. I share this with family members. I share that this is close to my heart because I feel like, if we knew it does help. It does help our relationships and our communication skills, which feeds and bleeds over in financial health, bleeds into every other aspect of health. The research shows that really clearly. So if we can know a little bit more about these things, then the better off I think we'll be, um, with each person, moving forward with the people that we interact with, whether
Yeah.
that's colleagues or spouses or children or friends that, whatever it is.
Yeah. I like that you said that we can be a combination of all of these and that they can change, and that if there's something you want to improve upon, that you can. My husband is a lifetime fan of Dave Ramsey, and I really like him. I've read his book Money Makeover, maybe not as well as my husband would have liked. But I'll tell you this, when we're in the car and he and I are driving together and we're listening to people calling in and doing their I'm debt free shout, which do you know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm debt free. And they tell their stories about how they were able to overcome hardship, job loss, you know, medical problems. Maybe it's depression, any of these number of things. And yet they've still been able to achieve their goals through planning and making a roadmap to really create that reality. And I think that a lot of times we forget that sacrifice has to be in order for us to reach those big goals. The reason why it is such a big deal for people to yell, I'm debt free, is because it's so rare. It's so rare to have
It
that
is.
experience and to, be able to shout that. And I think that by surrounding yourself with that education and that mindset that you can achieve these things, and it does take planning and sacrifice, it also makes it possible. And so what would you suggest for couples that are, perhaps there is someone who is married to a spontaneous spender? Maybe they are a spontaneous spender married to a planner. What would you suggest for bringing couples together that do have different types and want to create new habits themselves?
Sure. So there's challenges and there are advantages for every personality type. And the challenges with that spontaneous personality, particularly that you bring up, is that you spend maybe even when you don't have money,
Mm,
that you go into debt to buy things you don't need, possibly. You don't have money for the unexpected, and you might feel powerless to control your spending, even if you are the one with the spontaneous, whether or not if it's the partner, your spouse you're dealing with, or if it's you yourself. So then this can lead, what we don't want is to keep money secrets or to feel guilty or ashamed. We do not want any of that with regards to money. So advantages of then knowing, okay, if I have a money personality that's strong in this area, let's first remind ourselves that just because someone doesn't have the same money personalities as me doesn't mean I can't sort of respect or understand. So advantages to that person, though, that person brings to the table, because remember, we're going to focus on strengths really to help us come together. That's one recommendation. So enjoying adventures and the unexpected, or being able to quickly respond to opportunities, is a strength in that person's wheelhouse.
mm,
Getting things right away, this needs taken care of, and boom, it's done. I would probably research the best washer and dryer set for a month. And my husband would say, well, here's what I found today, and we can pick it up tomorrow. I mean, I really appreciate that about him, because I don't want to research washers and dryers for a month. So anyway, getting things right away, or having a system or a sort of a group of friends around you that will go and do things and go places and do things when you want to go and do. So I think we have to focus on the strengths that come with these money personalities and realize that it is just okay. One big takeaway with this money personality stuff is that I can respect money personalities that are different from mine. And especially in business, and even with spouses and partners, that at least that initial understanding of the strengths they bring to the table can be a starting place, I think.
I like that, because I think a lot of times, as we know, opposites attract. with personality, or, and those come with their own package deals of, if you have a person who's spontaneous by nature and adventurous and really fun, chances are there are going to be respects to money that they feel the same way, that they like to spend spontaneously and they like to go on adventures that include spending money spontaneously. So I
Right.
think that that's true, that, it's focusing on the positive and then coming together to make a plan. What would you suggest for couples who are coming together, looking at the positives that they have? What's a good way for them to come together and make goals together that work for someone who is more of a spontaneous type personality versus a planner?
Sure. So I think that one of the number one things you can do is take a big picture step back so there's the day-to-day spending that sometimes gets in our way. But then for the strengths that these different personalities together bring to the table is the little picture, big picture ability. So I think creating a financial vision board and evaluating financial goals yearly, you know, what is it like? It's like 80% of Americans don't have a written financial plan. It's not a budget. That's um, today, what am I doing a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So every decision we make every day affects the 10 years from now outlook.
Mm.
But if we've never gone there, if we've never talked financial vision, if we've really never financially decided or thought through a plan, then that's only ever going to be if the day-to-day visor is on and that's all we're looking at. So I think couples coming together to say, well, what would we want life to look like in 1 year from now? What would we want to be different about our financial situation? And what would be evidence that it was different? And that's usually the question that gets you to, oh, well, we would eliminate credit card debt, or we'd be able to purchase a rental property, or whatever comes of that conversation. 5 and 10 and retirement. Again, it's not the spontaneous fun thing to talk about right now, but you better believe it needs to be part of that financial plan as well.
Yeah. I am lucky because I also had that same class in Utah State from Alina Johnson, and she was such an incredible teacher and so inspiring. And I feel like financial literacy is it's a travesty that our education system isn't centered more around that visualization and the planning, and also the practices of how to make that happen. I feel like it's really something that as a country, our kids are suffering because they don't know, they don't have those tools. But thankfully I had that education, and my husband is a CPA and the biggest numbers nerd ever, which is totally to my benefit.
Awesome.
I know. So what we found that's been really helpful for us is when we're on really long road trips, he and I will visualize and make goals of what we want to see happen in our life financially, as well as what it would look like, how we would get there. And we recently found one that we had written 5 years ago. And it was in a notebook of mine that I just randomly picked up. And it was so cool to see that in each of those goals that we had written for ourselves, we had met and surpassed every single one that we had written. And I feel like I know, it was so cool because
I love that.
I know, it's so fun. And we've always done this, and I've always been a like a writer. What I've always done is written things down. And so I think that that's been key for us is the car ride visioning, because it's like a time that you're together and you can kind of be on that long stretch of road and say, okay, what would it look like in 5 years from now? What would our goals be? And what do we want to end up looking like? And then also to be able to look back and see how far you've come. And that was like a huge payday for us. It just happened about a month ago. And
I love that.
Yeah, it's we need to like coin it with something, but it's like our car ride dreaming or something. I don't know, but that is really fun.
Your vehicle visioning, Camille.
There it is. Vehicle visioning. But I'll tell you what has really, we have those big picture vehicle visioning moments But then
I
what has
love
really
that.
helped us to keep on track is to have weekly meetings on Sundays. And sometimes there are
Mm.
times in my life where I can be more of a habitual Amazon spender where we'll sit down and say like, and he does it too. We take turns and we'll say, we just really need to turn off Amazon for the month. And let's see if we can do without ordering from Amazon for a month. And you can do it. And it's just by doing those weekly check-ins to see where you are. And some of those weeks, it's, oh, like we're actually doing really well. Like we could do a special date out with the kids or just with us, or, it's doing those weekly check-ins that I think really helps you get those vehicle visualizations. I love that. I'm going to use that from now on.
That's great. Because you can do anything for a week, right? Like that's the thing with it being being in a crunched budget for a month is like, oh, or longer.
Yeah.
But for a week, yeah, I love that. I think small steps really impact financial uh, health. Um, I really like that a lot. How fun.
Yeah.
That's so great. That's so great.
Thank you. I know that you would nerd out about that with me too, because
Yes.
you love it. Building a successful business takes a clear understanding of your goals and where you want to go. That is why I love Cube Money. It is an app card combo that allows me to assign a purpose to each dollar in my checking account. No more wondering where you stand in regards to your bills, because with each transaction, you make a mental check-in with your balance. Create goals and stick with them in your lifestyle and business so you can live more and stress less. Go to cubemoney.com/Camille to get started today. That's Cube spelled QUBE money.com today, and make those dreams a reality. So tell me, I want to hear about a time for you personally where you set a goal for yourself, whether it was personally or with your husband, that you set out to reach a financial goal that really felt daunting, but then you were able to overcome it. And what was that? And what did it feel like for you? What did you learn?
Well, this is so our biggest financial stumbling blocks came when we were pretty quickly forced with some infertility decisions medically that were not
Mm,
covered with
yeah.
insurance, right? So all of the sudden, we were faced with taking on new debt that felt necessary and good in a way, because how else would we bring a little one into our lives? But also really weighed on us as far
Mm,
as our progress and our goals. Like we're just taking backward steps, not forward steps. And so I can remember feeling good that we had the credit, we had what we needed to get the funds to move forward with infertility treatment with IVF, which is one of the more in vitro fertilization, the more expensive infertility treatments. And then turning around right away and both of us feeling like, okay, how are we going to tackle this? What is the plan to eliminate this? Because we're not just going to sit here and make the minimum payment and feel okay. Neither of us were really okay with that. So I can remember sitting down and like I said earlier, you can skim for a while, but it takes a lot of self-discipline to skim on your budget month after month after month. And so we kind of just went by categories. And this month, maybe it's going to be, we're going to really dial down our grocery spending. Anything left over is going to that IVF loan. The next month, maybe it was entertainment spending, and whatever we're going to throw on that loan. And then the windfall or the money, like if tax return money ever came, or if a bonus ever came, or anything like that, we already sort of had in our minds where we wanted that to go because we were on that path. And same, so I can remember paying off the IVF loan for our first and only child this far, feeling like $1,000,000, like feeling like that really meant something because we'd worked on it together, and it wasn't necessarily a bad financial decision that got us in that spot in the first place. It was a medical need. So what do we do with our cards that were dealt? And stay positive about it. And we had family support, and I will never forget the support that came along the way to help us with that.
mm. That is so special. And
Mhm.
I really think that that is an unexpected cost that a lot of people are going through. I feel like it's more and more all of the time. And I love that you also said that you had a plan of where that money was going to go. That it wasn't so much a question of if or the how, it was just that's where it's going. And so let's tackle this together in a positive way.
Yeah. Yep. That really helped to have a plan ahead of time. If you don't, then you just months go by and you're not making progress and you just wonder what is the goal here, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Power Pay Master course that you helped co author and what it is as a tool to help us understand our personalities in regards to money and how we can create a roadmap so that we can get those visionary vehicle moments to become a reality.
Sure. So this course was created as a way to put online in there. It's record videos and create worksheets and for link further resources so people could deep dive in whatever topic they need. But the course starts with what's your why? What is your financial why? What is the big picture? If you don't know, if that visioning board process has never occurred to you, a financial vision board, you have to start there. And then we dive into money personalities. As I mentioned, that quiz is included along with about a 20-page PDF of so what. Now I know my money personality, so what? Like, what do I do with it?
Now the work begins. Yeah.
Is so great. And then tracking and expenses and budgeting, saving, paying off debt, budgeting with unexpected income is talked about. So all of these things that sort of build on each other to create this well-rounded, smart money mindset that then I think sets you on a road that allows you to make personal finances personal. So you have to make personal decisions every month, every day, almost about your finances. But we'd like to send you down a road that enables you to make those decisions informed and aware and confident, rather than a road that you maybe just sort of dive in without knowing and wish you'd have done things differently down the road. Or you just, you don't want to do things the same as your parents, but you're not sure what that looks like. Or, there's a lot of uncertainty because it's personal. So it's universal in that no one can avoid money, but it's unique. It's unique. So what the course does well, I think, is helps you see what are the expert tips, what are the tried and true pro tips that we can give people that then allow them to make personal finance personal for them.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it sounds like it's everything we should be. It seems like that should be a part of everyone's education and a part of everyone's step before getting married. I mean, don't you think? It just seems like that. Like a wedding planner should be part of it and be like, okay, well, and this side is where you go to your financial planning station before you pick your flowers. Like, it just seems like that should be the way it is. And I'm so grateful.
A business idea. There's
right?
A business idea.
That we could talk about it today. I have one more question for you. And this is a little woo-woo, but I don't know. I believe in it. I don't know if you do, but do you believe in manifestation of money? Do you believe in the power of your mind in regards to building business with money or your own personal finances? Tell me about your belief system with that.
Yeah, I do. I believe if we think we plan to fail, we fail. We plan to succeed, we succeed. So letting ourselves tell ourselves, I'm good with money. What a simple money mantra. I can be good with money. My money, there's no value on my personal self that has to do with money. That is separate, especially with women. So I do think that the more positive we can be in our mindset, the better off we are and the more enabled we are to succeed. And you might just surprise yourself. I mean, self-discipline is linked 100% to that positive money mindset. And that's where, like I say, you can make all the money in the world. We've talked, our brains are naturally biased. We make money assumptions. We all have money history, but guess what? No one is stuck in that. And that's where the mental strength and the mental positivity can really make a difference, I think.
Yeah. Amen. I agree. I'm so excited. And the Power Pay Money course is available. You can purchase that at utahmoneymoms.com. Use the code Camille10 to get $10 off, which makes it only $30, which is just a no-brainer in my mind. And I'm so grateful for you for putting it together and that it can empower women to really understand their own abilities and to picture money as a woman. Why not? Like I'm just over here waving the flag of yes, like this is so good. So thank you so much for being with us today, Amanda.
You're so welcome. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you are wanting to create your own financial future with empowerment and security, check out the Power Pay Master Course using the code Camille10 for $10 off, making this course only $10 and worth every single penny. If you have any questions or you want to tune in with me, come and connect with me on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast or on my website at camillewalker.co.